Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another patch review. So today, we're going to be looking at the stuff from this new expansion that was just revealed, Showdown in the Badlands. Now, if you've logged in today, you've already received this card behind me. This is Thunderbringer. Uh, when it dies, it summons an elemental and a beast from your deck. It's an 8 mana 6/6 taunt, elemental beast. Seems good for if we get strong elementals this set. I don't think there's anything really in Ungoro that's going to work super well with this. Ungoro being the other set that is sort of paired with this. But if we see a lot of big elementals or elementals with death rattles, we could definitely see this making some waves. Now, obviously, this would have been crazy with Elixir of Vigor in our favorite game mode, but even without Elixir of Vigor, all this really needs to see play is some elementals with death rattles. Because this would be great with Mummy Magic. It's really in the way. And if it summons more taunts, then your opponent is just going to cry. So I think this could definitely see some play. I'm interested in a Bran deck with some elemental and beast support. Right now, but we'll see what happens. So next we're going to turn our attention to one of the new mechanics of this set, Excavate. So every time you excavate, you're going to get one of these treasures that you see here on the left of my screen. The first time you excavate, you get one of these 1 mana treasures. The second time you excavate, you get one of these 2 mana treasures. And the third time you excavate, you get one of these 3 mana treasures. Now, when you look at these, they're all above cost. Like, you've got a 1 mana 2/2 rush, you've got 1 mana deal 3 damage, you've got 1 mana discover a 2-cost card, it costs 0. You've got a renew that draws a card instead of discovering, and you've got an innervate or, a lightning bloom if you save it. And these are all premium for the cost. So you want to excavate, you want these cards. Now, what kind of deck would want to play these cards? Well, most of them are spells. So I would think a Sticky Fingers deck, a Discover deck, anything where you can get extra copies, where you can reduce the cost of spells in your hand. I think Priest will probably use this a lot. I definitely see Rogue using this a lot. Excavate seems like a very strong mechanic, and as you go down the chain, you've got, Livingstone, a 2 mana 2/4 taunt, death rattle, summon a random 2 costs. This guy is way above curve, and he's probably going to make his way into Battlegrounds, if you think about it. And then, for another one of the minions to look at here, we've got Motherlode Drake down at the bottom. 3 mana, 4/3, Rush, Divine Shield, Lifesteal. This thing gets through whatever's on the board and keeps you in the game. And of course, how could we forget Ogre Fist Boulder? Amazing. They did it. Excellent job, Blizzard. We all love it. Alright, so there is actually a, not secret, but a cool little interaction with Excavate for certain classes. So, as it turns out, some of the classes are going to receive specific bonus excavation treasures. That's going to be Death Knight, Mage, Rogue, Warlock, and Warrior. In each of those 5 classes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5. In each of those 5 classes, you're going to see not only cards that have Excavate on them, but when you excavate the 4th, 8th, and 12th time, you're going to receive a new legendary treasure unique to that class. Now, I hope these are built around me's. I hope they're kind of quest rewards, because that'll make Excavate decks of each class have a very specific feel. So I'm looking forward to that. And, of course, Rogue is one of the ones I said I expect to see abusing this in Duels. I think that we're gonna see Excavate cards in other classes, but it's just a matter of how good the neutral Excavates are. Because if they're not good enough, then it might not be worth it even with Sticky Fingers or whatever, or what have you. But to look at some of the class-specific Excavates, we've got the Death Knight package here. So 3 mana, deal 3 damage, excavate a treasure. That's 1 frost. Looks pretty good. Like, the mana for damage ratio is pretty poor. Like, 3 mana, 3 damage, not really what you want to be doing. But these excavated treasures are about 1 mana above curve. So if you're just looking at the treasures that we have access to now, this is like deal 3 damage, bank a mana for 3 mana. Which isn't better than other spells that already exist in Frost Death Knight. So I'm not too sold on this one, but if the legendary treasure for Death Knight is big, then obviously it's gonna be big. Harrowing Ox, 7 mana, 7/7 taunt undead beast. Battlecry, if you've excavated twice, your next card this turn costs 7 less. You can get out a lot of stuff with this. I don't foresee a taunt Frost deck making waves in Duels, because that's really what you'd need to do this. I thought I muted you. And the other excavate here we have for Death Knight is so clearly like damage based that I don't think they go together. You know what I mean? If you're running Reap What You Sow in a Duels deck, it's because you're trying to run every single Frost spell that deals damage. And if you're trying to do that, then you're not trying to run Harrowing Ox. I mean, maybe specifically with Frostworm's Fury, but it still doesn't seem like something I would wanna build my deck around. Oops. Let's go back. The Azurite Rat, resurrect your highest cost minion, give it +2/+2, reborn, and lifesteal on a 4 mana 5/5. This guy really's got the legendary premium, huh? I don't know if big Death Knight is ever a thing, but there's a really good chance that this just ends up being really annoying in Blood. Especially in Duels. You've got the endless life gain. This has lifesteal and reborn coming back on whatever it summons. It seems like it's gonna be so grindy. Not looking forward to it. And then for one of our hunter cards here, we've got Messenger Buzzard. You draw a beast on Death Rattle and give minions in your hand +1/+1 on a 2 mana 1/2. Hand buff has never worked in Hunter. Now that doesn't mean it can't. This is pretty good for what it is. I think there's a good chance we just see this in Mummy Magic decks in Hunter, just as a little auto-include, especially if we end up seeing a lot more Death Rattles in general in this set. And it could also go in the big, in the Beast Elemental brand deck I was talking about. Whether or not this sees play is honestly just something we're going to have to wait and see. But Mummy Magic does make this pretty strong. Deathly Death does make this pretty strong. And it's only 2 mana. I could definitely see it working. Especially if you're triggering this out anytime other than when it's dying. You're getting a lot of value. So, could be good. Blast Mage Miner. 6 mana, Battle Cry, excavate a treasure. For each card in your hand, deal 1 damage to a random enemy. And it's a 4/4. The stats don't really matter here. But just like if you're generating a bunch of cards because you're running an excavate deck, or because you're running a discover deck that has excavate cards in it, your hand is going to be enormous. This is like 6 mana, deal 10 damage. 6 mana, like at the most, to a random enemy. Not all enemies. Okay, I was scared for a second. But this can clear the board pretty easily because it's just so many pings. And like for 6 mana, you're almost getting an Astalor many times. So I definitely see this seeing play. In Standard, I could see this being a win condition in Duels. If you just make enough copies of these, you might be able to win the game just outright based on that. So look out for Blast Mage Miner. I think we will be seeing him. And then we've got a Shaman card here, Living Prairie. 5 mana, 5/4, Battle Cry. If you've played an Elemental last turn, summon 2 3/3 Cows with Rush. I like it. The 3/3 cows with rush have a really cute art here. But the what you're really looking at here, 5 mana 5/4, summon 2 3/3s, really good. Like, this is way above curve. Like, yes, if you played an elemental last turn is a hard requirement, but it's a lot of stats. Now, the thing is, elemental decks have never worked in duels because they rely on Battlecry treasures, and you can't target Battlecry treasures anymore, as we've found out. So, I don't see this making any waves in duels whatsoever, unless, again, we see elementals with death rattles specifically. That is the only thing that I think could make that or some significant changes to how the treasure system works, of course. But barring that, I don't think this is going to see much play. So moving on, we've got our next mechanic, Quick Draw. Now, if you've played Magic before, you probably know what this is. This is Miracle. So in Magic, there were some special rules with how it worked because you had to prove that you drew it the turn that you played it. But with this, it's just, if this card came into your hand this turn and you cast it, it has the Quick Draw effect. And it's very strong not having to reveal it right away because you can do other things in the turn. You can draw more cards and make sure that this is really the best play. But we've got some really way above board effects here. 1 mana, deal 4 damage to a minion, lifesteal with Quick Draw here on Dehydrate. Very, very strong. 3 mana, deal 4 damage to a minion with lifesteal. Already good. We play that card in some decks. Now, it's not a nature spell, which is very, very important. So, this isn't going to see play in any of the nature decks we're seeing. But in any sort of generic damage deck, I could see it seeing play. I could also see it just being really good generation. Because when it enters your hand that turn, it costs 1. So whenever you discover Dehydrate, it costs 1. So I really like this card, but I don't think it's going to actually get put into decks. Now, Trolley Problem over here, we definitely have a place for this. Because the discard, Warlock has stuff that cares about discard. Now, yes, discarding your spells isn't really going to help you, but if you've got an imp on board, then you're discarding and you're drawing cards, so it's fine. But for 3 mana to summon 2 3/3 tram cards with Rush, I'm happy to discard a card to do that. And if we drew it this turn, we don't discard a card. And that's just 3 mana, 6/6 with Rush. Way, way better than most of the other stuff you'd get at that rate. Habeas Corpses is probably the closest comparison, and that card is awful when you top deck it. So I really like Trolley Problem. The flavor could have been a little better for Trolley Problem. It's cute that we're finally getting this card, but it's not really the Trolley Problem in design. Cute card though. I like it. So as we move on here, I just put these two together because I know this is not going to see any play at all in duels. We've tried Highlander decks before without the specific Highlander bucket system that they had in the past. It's just not possible. These are cool cards. Theldur in the Lost, 4 mana 3/4. He gains immune and attacks all enemies. Wow, it's an Olgra for 4 mana. And it doesn't ever die when it attacks. That's great. We got Elise Badlands Savior, 8 mana 5/5, no duplicates, summon a 4/4 copy of 4 random minions in your deck. You've got Neptulons, you've got Blackwater Behemoths. This is crazy. But again, it's just not something you can do in duels. Like, I guess if you had a lot of draw and you had a lot of ways to get stuff out of your deck, maybe there's a chance, but I just don't see it. And 8 is a lot of mana to play for a card like this. So, I don't see it. Then, next, we've got Ridiculous Hat. 4 mana, 4/4. Battlecry, if you have 20 or less health, open the Badlands Jail. And the Badlands Jail is a location, which I assume goes directly onto the battlefield. And it has Make a Minion Go Dormant for 3 turns on it. I don't know if this is going to see much play. It's very easy to trigger this effect in duels, so I can see us just like throwing it in there if we're running Showdown in the Badlands. But in what kind of deck, right? Like, who really wants to do this? It is more removal if you don't have removal in your deck. But if you need removal in your deck, you should be running actual removal. So I don't know what this does. It's cool. Great to see that we're finally getting ridiculous out in game. Yeah, I don't know what we're doing with this. Now, there is something else to talk about here, and I have some feelings about this one. Basically, Ungoro is entering Twist, and as a result, they're buffing a bunch of the cards in Ungoro, like they did with the other Twist sets. Cool idea. Some of the cards they've chosen to buff, they are chosen to buff them because they are very, very, very weak in constructed play. However, some of these buffed cards were already very strong in duels. And this happened before. So we'll see what happens, but I am not optimistic. So to look at the changes here, we've got Druid, Verdant Longneck up to a 5/5. Very funny. This was a 5/1 and now it's a 5/5. But we've got Evolving Spores down to 3 mana. Good when generated. I don't think we're going to be seeing it in play. Giant Anaconda has Taunt, so Druid Taunt decks are probably going to be throwing in Giant Anaconda, just because it can cheat out other taunts. Jungle Giants is a little easier to use. I don't think that really changes anything. Tyrantus has Taunt now, so if you're doing Taunt Druid, Tyrantus actually a consideration as an 8 mana 14/14 taunt. But are we getting to 8 mana? Jewel Macaw is a 1/2. We already knew that. Grievous Bite is getting some more damage, which would be cool for a Questline Hunter, but we're getting a bunch of we're getting buffs to Tolvir Warden, which never saw play in duels, but I don't think a 1-drop, like, there's nothing that triggers when you fill your deck with 1-drops, so don't see it. Dinomancy actually maybe has a shot here. I'm thinking like a Beast Brand where you start with the Discovery Hero power and then go to Dinomancy. Is it anything? Probably not. Stampede at 0 mana, very cool. Queen Carnassa got Rush, very cool. We're not playing Queen Carnassa. Swamp King Dread, 6 mana. Very funny. He's way overstated for 6 mana, but that's the thing. He always kills himself. So I don't think that's going to see any play because it doesn't have any, like, specific legendary or specific treasures that interact with it, but it is what it is. We've got Shimmering Tempest up to a 2/2 Battle Cry instead of Death Rattle. We could see that in some Generation Mage, but it's still not really very strong for what it is. Meteor, even more damage. I don't see any reason we want this. Pyros is a lot cheaper if we do Elemental Mage, which we can't. This would be good, but again, we can't. Adaptation down to 0 mana. I don't think we're doing anything with that unless we're playing the last Kaleidosaur. We've got Vinecleaver and Lightfuse Stegodon getting a mana shaved off, which I think is going to be crazy in Dude Paladin, which is already pretty strong. Dino Size, 7 mana, sets its stat to 7/14. Very funny. I love it. Very funny. Thank you. Yeah, but I don't think much of these changes are going to make a big difference in duels. Now, this page is where it really gets important. Tortolan Shellraiser, now a 3 mana 2/5. So with Endurance Training, she's 1 mana. She's got Reborn if you've got Mummy Magic. Tortolan Shellraiser stock's going way up. Free from Amber down to 7. Good when discovered. That's about it. Crystalline Oracle up to 1/2. We do see that in Awaken the Maker's Priest sometimes, so it could still, that could matter. Mirage Caller can target any minion. Don't really see that making much difference. Clarius Glimmerroot, no. Lyra down to 4. Very fun. Awaken the Makers down to summon 6 Death Rattles. Oh my god. If this is what it takes for them to finally ban Awaken the Makers, then fine. But if they don't ban Awaken the Makers after this change, we are going to go into a hell made up of only Death Rattle priests. There are 3 ways to play priest in this game, and all of them have decent Death Rattle decks, and this is crazy. You just get 80 health. Yeah, my genuine hope is that this gets Awaken the Makers banned. Razor Petal Volley and Razor Petal Lasher up to 2 damage on the Razor Petals. This is crazy. I know that Razor Petals never mattered in any other format, but there's a class that can run rogue cards that has the ability to give any spell damage +2. They just have activated eviscerates. They have 2 mana, add 3 activated eviscerates to your hand. What? And then everything else on the list for rogue here, I don't see mattering too much. Obsidian Shard, slightly better. Biteweed, slightly better. Sherazin, slightly better. Mimic Pod, 2 mana. Maybe we run Mimic Pod in Sticky Fingers rogue decks now. I could see that. Tidal Surge from Shaman up to 5 damage. I guess we're just trying to make it better than that new quick draw card. Volcano down to Overload 1. Kind of fun. Spirit Echo down to 2 mana. Stone Sentinel up to down to 5 mana. Unite the Murlocs down to 8 Murlocs. And Kalamos the Primal Lord down to 7 mana. If we see any kind of elemental deck make waves in duels, Kalamos will find a way. But how do you get Battlecry passives? How? From Warlock, Ravenous Pterodax down to 3 mana 3/3. Pretty good. Feeding Time, now adapts the Pterodaxes. Kind of cool. The Greatest Dinomancer is now slightly better. And Chittering Tunneler is now slightly better. And then here at Warrior, we've got some pretty big deals. Tarlord, Ornery Direhorn, and Direhorn Hatchling all getting significant buffs. Endurance Training Warrior, already very good. Tarlord was very strong as a 4 mana 11/7. Making that cost 3 mana, I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe it'll be enough to counteract the Death Rattle Priests. Direhorn Hatchling being even bigger, and Ornery Direhorn being even bigger. Yeah, I just don't know. The taunt decks now have 3 amazing hits in Ungoro. If you want to play these cards. So, it is what it is. We'll see what happens. But the giving buffs to decks that are already good is very scary. Lastly, we've got the neutrals here. Lots of buffs to elementals. I don't think it's gonna matter. I can't see how we can get elementals to work. Volcano Sword down to 6 mana. I am gonna try a Beast Brand. I don't think it's gonna be good, but I am gonna try it. And then last but not least, they finally fixed the bug where your win-loss record did not appear in game. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I know this wasn't a balance patch. I'm hoping we get some more balance for duels. Nothing is like crazy right now, but yeah, Awaken the Makers is just doesn't need to be as good as it is now. Other than that, I hope we get some new content for duels. Showdown in the Badlands would be a great time to add some new heroes or some new treasures based on this new Wild West theme. We want elementals to matter. Let's finally have a passive that directly calls out elementals, can we? All right. That's going to be the episode for today. Thank you all for checking out the video, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye. Bye, bye, bye.